How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at 28 Years Later. This is the third entry in the 28 Days Later franchise. Just came out June 20th, 2025, and was directed by Danny Boyle, who made the first one. Cool to see him back. This movie stars Alfie Williams, Jodie Comer, and Aaron Taylor Johnson. And I guess before we dive too far deep, I should quickly say about the first two, I thought the first two 28 Days Later movies were pretty solid movies. I really liked them. I felt they came out pretty good. But that being said, I was never in the weird cult following that they seem to have. For real, I knew so many people that loved the 28 Days Later movies that acted like they were the only good zombie movies ever made, which is not true. They were these like weird film snob people who would get really mad whenever you called them zombies. But no, they're infected. They're not zombies. Even though one of the characters in 28 Years Later would actually say the Z word, oh. If it quacks like a duck, right? Yeah, whatever. All that being said though, I thought the first two were pretty solid, and in turn I was hopeful when I found out they were making a third one. Sucks that they skipped months and went right to years, but whatever. I wanted this movie to be good, I had hopes for it, but I didn't need it to be good, and I wasn't like holding it to the highest standards ever, and I think it came out pretty solid. I think it was a pretty pleasant surprise, and honestly, I think 28 Years Later might be my favorite of the franchise. But before we get too deep, what's the movie about? No major spoilers, but the setup here is that it is indeed 28 years since the zombie apocalypse. The rest of the world has moved on, but they've turned the UK into a quarantine zone, and if you're a survivor in the UK, you're stuck there and can't leave. They have boats patrolling and everything. So their society has kind of moved on, and we get a group of survivors living on this island. They have a natural land bridge that connects them to the mainland, and they can do some supply runs, but during high tide it floods and isolates the island. Well, you get this kid that was born after the zombie apocalypse, and he's living in this village, and his father says, it's time for you to go out, see the mainland, do your first run, hopefully make your first zombie kill, and even though he's a little young, he's going to go and experience the world. And of course, things don't go to plan, the zombies are up to some interesting stuff, and there's rumors that the people living on the mainland have gotten a little strange. And right off the bat, I do want to say with this movie, it is character driven, and that is always a huge plus. The kid in this movie, growing up, trying to understand the world, it comes out really, really well. You get things like him and his relationship to his father, and not understanding what the father's trying to do. The father won't get angry when he messes up, and when he talks to other people, will try to say, oh, my son's so great, he's the coolest ever. And in turn, the kid feels like his dad's lying. He's not lying, he's sympathetic and he's proud, but the kid doesn't understand that. The kid also has a mother who's sick and dying, and he doesn't know how to accept this, and his father seems to be moving on prematurely. This is a tough zombie apocalypse world, and it's not kind to the people who are gonna cling on, and in turn, the father feels like it's a hopeless cause, and is kind of trying to ignore his dying wife, which the kid reads as incredibly cruel, and yeah, it is, but life is incredibly messy in this world, and the kid doesn't know how to interpret that. I love that it is character driven, I love that the drama is interesting and different, and I do love how there's no clean solutions here. It's about coming of age, it's about understanding death, and it's about zombies. It's a pretty cool story. story. And also the world here is really, really well built. The first one had a really tiny budget and they were able to scrape together a pretty impressive world in that one. But moving on to the third movie, boy do they have a budget. And yeah, they did a whole lot here. Buildings that are run down, the earth is taken over, they're grimy and old and deserted. It is a really cool looking setting. There's this house that's just falling apart that they have to hide in for a while. There's large packs of deer that are just roaming the wilderness. And of course, the zombies have changed, and I really do like them. You get bigger, slower zombies, you get lots of really fast zombie stampedes, and you get the alpha zombies, the big, tough, and super scary ones that lead to some great sequences. The zombies in here are pretty scary, and that's pretty cool. And I also have to mention this movie's shooting and editing style. They are trying to be experimental, which I can appreciate. They're trying to do different things like editing some shots to this old music they have. There's some really cool shots of the zombies with night vision, but it's dyed red. And this kid has a dream of his mother neck deep in water just kind of staring at him. There are some really cool shots in this movie, but with experimental stuff, there's also a lot of shots that are just weird and don't work. Like when a zombie gets hit, they do a cut to a slightly different angle to make it jarring, and then slow motion effects. I mean, they don't do it every time, but they do it a lot, and it was just a little campy. They try to do some shots that look really pretty, even though they don't really serve a storytelling function, and the movie has this weird obsession with digital cinema that's a holdover from the first one, and you can kind of see some of the shots not looking great because of that. So there are some weird stuff with the shot choices. It's experimental, you get some good stuff out of that, but you also get some that don't quite work. But when we're talking about cons, the biggest cons come towards the end. They don't ruin the movie, but some people are gonna talk about them. And I heard the movie had a controversial ending, so I was a little bit prepared for anything. And they get to this point that's kind of like the sum of this kid's emotional journey. And yeah, okay, there is a bit of a weird dark element thrown in there, but whatever, it works. It has a really good, deep ending that I really liked, and I was thinking, okay, is this it? Could people just not take this ending? I liked it. I thought maybe people were just flipping out. But then I got to the scene, and I won't spoil it, but the very last scene in this movie, it's 2 or 3 minutes that tease the sequel to this movie, and it's just out of nowhere stupidity. For real, people are going to watch this movie on streaming later and just turn the movie off before we get to this scene. It is so bizarre, it is so bonkers, it is so out of nowhere, and really shouldn't have been in the movie. And it's so weird that a movie that was so good and so serious and really worked should have ended one scene earlier, and we just get random nonsense for 3 minutes and then the movie's over. It doesn't ruin anything, especially if you're at home and can just skip it, but yeah, they really should have put that last scene after the credits or something, maybe buried it a little bit. I like this one, but I'm not 100% about the sequel if we go in that direction. But I guess I'll see how the trailers look for it. Hopefully we don't have to wait near as long for another sequel. The first one came out in '02, the second in '07, and now it's 2025. It's literally been 23 years since the first one. It's almost really been 28 years later, which is crazy to think about. But overall, I think this one is pretty good, barring some silly stuff towards the end and a few shots that don't work. A really good character study and a meditation at times. Overall, I think this is my favorite in the series. I might go back and rewatch these first two pretty soon. Maybe I'll see how they hold up. It has been a while since I saw the first two, so maybe keep an eye out for that. But all that being said, I really did like the movie. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist at the bottom. This should be my 2025 movies playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about Sinners, Wolfman, or Megan 2.0, feel free to click right here and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.